A Twitter war breaking out between two prominent voices on the left and the right. It all started with Rosie O'Donnell's suggestion that she would bribe lawmakers to vote against the tax bill. Ben Shapiro wasn't having it, saying that's a violation of federal law. From there, things got increasingly, well, personal, with O'Donnell telling Shapiro to do things that we can't say here on television, prompting Shapiro to send out this tweet today. Just reported Rosie for targeted harassment, mainly to see if Twitter does indeed have a double standard. Everyone knows if Rosie were conservative, Twitter would suspend her in a hot second. So Twitter, put your money where your mouth is, #MeToo. Rosie replied simply, "Oh, Ben." Shapiro's response, "Rosie, all victims deserve to be believed." And the story doesn't end there. Joining us now in an exclusive interview, Ben Shapiro, editor-in-chief of the Daily Wire. Now, I know you just heard from Twitter. I want you to hold on to that for 1 second, just so we can make sure everybody's up to speed. Her original tweet, which I saw fly by too, where she says $2 million to Senator Susan Collins, Senator Jeff Flake, if they vote no. No, I will not kill Americans. That's what she tweeted. I don't know how this is killing Americans, but that's okay. For the sour rich, I think it was supposed to say super, but she was impaired in some way while doing this, probably with her fingers. DM me, Susan, DM me, Jeff. You responded that if Trump orders Sessions to investigate Rosie, he will be carved into Rushmore by Friday, which I thought was a pretty good burn. But what inspired you to pile on this mess? Because it was already out of control.
Well, I mean, it was obvious that she had actually violated, at least formally, 18 U.S.C. 210, 201,
they can't bribe officials.
Yeah, exactly. A specific provision of the U.S. Code, and in doing so, she had done this on Twitter, and so I sort of piled on a little bit, and she responded by essentially telling me to perform an anatomical act on her that certainly would fall under Me Too sexual harassment. So, but what was weird about it is that she told me to perform it on a male appendage of hers. Well, so that was. It was weird.
Let's not get into that, because
it was
could be
not
having
great.
Dinner right now.
I think that's probably smart, and so I responded by essentially saying that she was already a felon. There was no need to make herself into a homophobic sexual harasser as well. So things sort of degenerated from there.
Yeah, absolutely. The serious part of this is that she told you to do things to her that, of course, Harvey Weinstein and lots of people are in trouble for trying to get people to do to them. And if there was, I mean, if a man said this to a woman, you say conservative versus liberal. But if any of the normal tables were turned, people would recoil in horror and just would really be on your side, but not this time.
No question. I mean, if I had said exactly the same words to Rosie O'Donnell that she said to me on Twitter, I have very little doubt that I would have been suspended or expelled from Twitter for targeted harassment or abuse under their rules. So I decided to find out exactly how Twitter operated. And so I reported her for targeted harassment and abuse. And then I have now received back their notice that apparently there was no violation of the Twitter rules, which is astonishing. They say that she did not actually perform behavior that crosses the line into abuse. Which, I totally understand why we can't read these tweets on air, because they're really obscene and abusive, but that's why Twitter probably should have done something if they cared about enforcing their own rules. I actually don't want Rosie O'Donnell tossed off Twitter. I find her far too amusing, and I'm sad that she blocked me today. But that said, I think that Twitter should be held to account for its own enforcement of the rules, because it's wildly inconsistent. Yeah,
look, we're looking right there where you can see that Rosie blocked you. It does seem very hypocritical on Twitter's part, which is sort of the focus, because Rosie has gone off a bunch of times before. I mean, she has a long Twitter history. Some of her best times were during the debates where she called President Trump all kinds of names, comparing him to body parts, saying how orange he was, talking about his appearance. I mean, again, things that if tweeted at a woman, or if tweeted at Hillary Clinton about her appearance, people would be all up in arms. But this is what she was doing to Donald Trump. She even said he was like the snake oil salesman from Little House on the Prairie, which I kind of liked for obvious reasons. But all these things going on, she's on Twitter, but Twitter does nothing about it when she attacks someone with what should be sexual harassment. Do they have a track record of banning other people for saying things like this, though?
Well, I mean, they do have a track record of at least blocking people's tweets that are considered abusive or suspending people who are abusive. And they have a track record of going after people for political reasons as well. Again, their terms of service suggest that you are not allowed to issue tweets like this, but they have a rather arbitrary standard, obviously, for what they choose to enforce or not enforce. My guess is that they didn't want to open the can of worms that would have necessitated opening in order to take any action against Rosie O'Donnell for suggesting that I do certain things to her, which is horrifying.
I'm still stuck on the fact that she seemed very sincere in the fact when she went on originally and she tweeted long tweets about exactly how much money she wanted to give for them to vote no and DM me. And I mean, she sounded very serious. So I don't know. There's a lot of debate right now about whether or not that's a violation of the law since it was on Twitter. We'll see. Ben Shapiro, hat tip to you, my friend. Thank you for coming on.
Good to see you. Thanks.